and it has become a permanent exhibit at their school. That's the beauty of it, that students get inspired to create their own art. Polynomiography in design. This is a carpet that we have at home, and the design on this inspired me to come up with this polynomial graph, an appropriate polynomial equation, and then this, which was inspired by the carpet. And I thought it might be interesting to turn it into a carpet. So made a carpet out of it. And in fact, I have the actual carpet. I can show it to you. Here is another polynomial graph based on the same equation. And I thought that would be nice to be turned into a carpet as well. So this is a family picture of the three carpets, the original and the two inspired by it. There are many more carpets to be made. The girl with a secret. Do you know what her secret is? If you turn her upside down, she has an image of herself in her face. Artists and polynomiography. We can connect artists with polynomiography in a way. Does anyone recognize this? Well, the left side is by Klee. The right one is by polynomiography. Everybody, I suppose, recognizes this, Picasso. I'm not comparing myself with it, but I'm just saying that the possibilities are there, and somehow it is amazing that when we deal with polynomial equations, that we have only treated them mathematically, that they could give rise to such a vast, possible domain of images. Anyone recognizes this? So Louet, and the right one is by polynomiography. So Louet was an algorithmic artist. He would draw things on the wall. And this one, the left is by Klimt, and the right one looks like a fractal kind of an image. Could have very well worked as a dress for the lady Klimt's painting. This is the right is by polynomiography. The left was it provoked Lillian Schwartz, who will be here tomorrow, to create this image inspired by that. Okay, I was this was summer of 2000, where I was thinking, can I make a U.S. flag using polynomiography? Of course, everybody knows how to make draw a flag. You put a flag in front of you and you draw the stars. But then I started thinking, well, how do I make stripes? So first I came up with this. The whole thing took me actually summer of 2000. And then I came up with this, as if the blue is emerging. Then I found a way of finding stars, and I collide that onto this image. And this is a close-up of the star. And then I found this manifold and a different kind of star. So I called these 5 images evolution of stars and stripes. Endless designs with a single polynomial. Acrobats. These are all based on essentially a single formula. This one is here. I call it the origin of death. This is a virtual sculpture based on acrobats, one of the images that I have. I would very much like to see some of these images in stone, as Hierman does. To whom can polynomiography appeal? Can it appeal to kids? Can it appeal to Hollywood? Can it lead to games? I claim that the answer to all these is yes. This is Ms. Poly, which is based on a single polynomial equation I discovered. Her lips come from another polynomial equation. And she is very opinionated. She says, just give me a bunch of dots and make Picasso jealous. Because she feels that with the single dots we can create so many different images based on corresponding polynomial equation. Then 3. Snoopy. And this one is called ZT. And he says, is popularization of polynomiography possible? This is my last slide. This afternoon you will all get a chance to work on this demo software at the lab, both myself and Theodore and Dave and possibly Resha and Taylor. Yes?
How many tries did it take you to get the carbon into an equation, a single equation? I mean, how much can you anticipate?
Yes, it's a very good question. There are some, as you see, some of the images here remind you of fractal. I mean, there are fractal images, in fact. But the reason why I called it polynomiography was not to have a coup d'etat against fractals, but it was because there are many techniques really here. I mean, I can go on about that. I have a book, but there is element of control in creating this. And the carpet that you saw was in fact based on a z cubed minus 2, I took z to the 12 minus 1, okay, and I multiplied that by another equation of the type, except that I rotated z to the, and I changed the radius, and then another one. So I took essentially 3 polynomials of degree 12 and interlaced these, played with them, and I liked the one that I came up with, and this is really good. My wife now will say that I look like a carpet dealer. Maybe somebody will make me an offer I cannot refuse. So you see, you can design, you can control, you see that.
You can anticipate.
Sorry?
You can anticipate the visual output.
Absolutely. You will learn to anticipate. Exactly. You will learn to anticipate. And there are so many parameters really. When we are doing this with Irasha and Phil and Dave, so many parameters that we can play with. We really don't want to make it too complex. It would be like a camera with so many knobs. But there is element of control. Yes.
So the user chooses an initial color scheme, and what are the colors representing that?
Yes, there is a default. You can get a default way of changing. The software by default gives you a particular image, and then you can go on changing that.
So I understand what you're doing with NuGNet's algorithm, but I don't know what you're putting in and what the colors are representing.
Okay, well, there is really a lot that can be said about this. That's why I wrote this book called Polynomial Root Finding and Polynomiography. It's about 500 pages. And I still talk about the theory basically. The algorithm becomes endless. I mean, if you look at, say, even z cubed minus 1, the ordinary way is that you're looking at the basins of attractions, the 3 colors for the basins of attractions. But even that you could change. And there are parameters that manipulate the Julia set itself. I have some undergraduates, in fact, who have their poster presentations if they show up. They have done some manipulation of with z cubed minus 1.
Bahman, you mentioned only polynomials, but I'm sure you also tried analytic functions.
Yes, yes, we go to analytic functions as well, yes.
And how can you get the result of such functions?
How can we?
Have you some idea of what such functions will show?
Well, you can, I mean, from a theoretical point of view too, there are properties that can be proven for polynomials. And some of them I really don't know if they, how they would work for general analytic functions. But I must tell you that I have used some of the techniques that I learned from polynomiography to, for instance, approximation of pi. I have some formulas, which are new formulas for approximation of pi. I don't know if they're the kind of practical formulas that Borweins, for instance, or Baileys would be using. But you can use the same techniques. And one of the images I had was based on that sort of approximation. So you could go on to analytic functions. Yes?
How stable are the images? If you move the point slightly, will the images change?
Sorry, my hearing is...
How stable are these images? If you move the point slightly, will the image change steadily?
Yeah, well, you know that, dynamical system. So, yeah, I mean, depends on where you are, Yeah, but if you change your polynomial, in fact, if you take a polynomial and here is what some of the kids did, they take a polynomial and they say, oh, what happens if you change the constant term a little bit? What happens? What happens if you change the coefficients of z squared continuously? What would happen to that? You can get beautiful animations out of that. And you will see continuous changes. You will see how Julia sets change. We have a pretty good demo. I mean, at this point, we cannot say that it's a full software at this point, but it has a lot of good. Yes.
You get a feel for symmetries and so forth to create a beautiful image for math or formulas. Can you invert that and say which mathematical choices create the ugliest images?
I think beauty or ugliness is in the minds of the beholder. I mean, let me tell you this, that some of the interesting images I feel I have gotten, I mean, you start with a polynomial. Usually everybody thinks of polynomials with real coefficients. And this is a big mistake I think people are making, even in education, because we even if you are trying to find the zeros of a polynomial with real coefficients, the imaginary polynomial, the roots are there. They are in another dimension. They are affecting the way algorithm works even on the real line. So, but there is an intrinsic symmetry if you take reals because of the conjugacy. The roots, conjugate roots are also. I'm not going over. I'm going over.
Just but there's two questions.
I'm sorry.
Well, I had two comments. One was what was brought up about.
Can you speak up?
The first comment was following on that question. If you can morph from one picture to another by changing the coefficient.
Yes.
I mean that was what came up.
Yes, you can.
So I didn't see any of this morphing going on.
I don't have time though.
Yeah. The other thing is, you began by talking about fundamental operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication. Now you can do all these things with matrices.
Yes.
Now what's attractive about matrices is you're not locked into 2 dimensions. So you can do sculptures. Right?
Yes, actually you raised a beautiful question. I know about this also in our email exchange. So why not go on to quaternions? Yes, and that is a beautiful question. I think we can go and get some interesting things, maybe project back into dimension 3. There are lots of open questions. I mean, polynomial root finding is by no means dead, as some. It's not a dead subject. It's a very lively subject. Yes.
But you don't need the free property. You don't need to go to the quaternions. You just
That's
need
right.
the ring.
Right, that's why I said matrix.
Yeah.
Matrices, probably easiest
Yes.
access.
But to prove some of the properties you prove about polynomials, they don't just extend. You have to study them. I believe they're open.
See, with the quaternions, you have a fundamental theorem of algebra, and you like this theorem.
Yes, I like it very much. I will look at quaternions for sure. You have inspired me to look at them. I will.
I know you will.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's leave all the remaining questions for the afternoon session, and let's take the speaker again.